Right, it's loading. It'll take just a quick second. Okay. All right. So to continue, all right, we're episode 125. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sorry about that. I'm Tom Kuhn. I'm host and curator of Lightbulb Moments. And a lightbulb moment is a moment of sudden realization, enlightenment, or inspiration. And that really is the true theme of these episodes, is finding lightbulb moments. At Cunity, we really will help provide a clear path towards prosperity with a simple, visual, and actionable approach to go from complicated, confusing, and overwhelming to a clearer path towards prosperity, whatever that means to you. And remember to prosper, manage the three currencies we have in life: attention, time, and money. And thanks for spending your precious time with us. We love hearing from you. Submit a lightbulb moment of your own on our website. Our last guest was Tina Black. You definitely want to check out this episode. And one of the lightbulb moments from her is, if you're a big vision leader, you're going to attract a higher level person to your team. We don't hire employees, we hire future partners. Great episode. We covered some subjects like partnering. And I'm excited to say that Tina and/or members of her team would be in Atlanta with us, having a conversation, not a conversation, a full workshop about transitions. And Tina is going to be there, and they've got some really cool practices. So she's going to be one of our featured guests. Today, we're going to give you a sneak peek at new data. This has not been brought to anybody yet. And essentially, we have completed the this year's, I would call it P3, because last year was phase 1 and phase 2. This year, using 2022 data points, is the study we just completed. Now we're in the process of polishing the findings, making sure everything ties out, issuing the report. And we're going to unpack some of the key findings of that today, which has not been heard before. We always like to start with our lightbulb moment audience when something new comes out. I've invited Sonia Eklund from our team to join us. We'll get her to the mic in a little bit. At Cunity, we provide financial wellness for pro beauty. We do have some workshops coming up, just heads up. September 18th and 19th, we have our second execution SBO workshop. This is a new button-down version of the gritty art of getting things done. We did this workshop in June, and it was very, very well received, and the results from them since then have been amazing. So we decided to get another date on the calendar pretty quick, which we did. We still do have spaces left. September 18th and 19th. It's at a very affordable hotel right by the airport. Please join us if you can. Here's where we're going to go through some of our core systems. Many of them have been updated. There's new tools. There's new relevance to it. And keep in mind that this is primarily for leaders. I would say managers is the sweet spot. Owners, especially owners that are active in the management side, but really the sweet spot of this is for those who are on the front line managing in a leadership role. They need education, they need resources, and that's what this is for. Also, at the same time, we'll be doing our profitability course, Money SBO, same dates. They'll be in separate rooms, but it's coming up. We're super excited about it. It's about 5-6 weeks away. We'd love to have you join us. And if there's anything we can do to help you get here, let us know. All right. My lightbulb moment last session was included in the conversation with Tina, but we spent a little bit of time talking about transition planning, changes in SBA rules. SBA made some changes they announced, which makes it easier for transitions to key employees into ownership. And so it's also led us to do a transition planning workshop, which is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, October 22nd on Sunday. I hope I got that date right. It's it's going to show up here. Here we go. October 22nd. And we do have several people already signed up. We've got some very exciting people. Well, anybody that's being there is exciting, but we have some exciting guests that we'll announce very soon that's going to be part of this. This is sort of a one-in-a-kind type event. Last time we did this was almost 4 years ago. So definitely want to be part of this if you're interested in bringing in a key employee, if you're thinking about selling your business, whether you want to grow or go or grow and go, check it out. A lot of great things we're going to cover in there. Also, we've got a new data project that is going to move. We're going to continue to go deep in compensation data, but now we're working on a big industry project that has to do with getting real-time sales data. And we've got several POS tech companies that we're in partnership with. More coming on that. It's going to be a breakthrough new area of data that's hugely important. All right. Speaking of data, that is going to be part of the theme on this. And I read this article by Adam Zaki. It's in CFO magazine. And let me just kind of walk you through this. And this really makes a pretty good case in terms of the importance for data in areas we did not expect. As it says in the headline here, 72% of employees say productivity is dependent on good data. So I'm going to kind of just take a few minutes to go through, and I'd love to get some of your comments, and I'm sure Sonia and I will collaborate a little bit. But let me kind of give you the high points here. So with issues of autonomy at work and collaboration and decision making, new research suggests that employee productivity is tied to something different altogether. Employees are more concerned about quality data than their autonomy. Nearly 3/4, 72% of workers say productivity depends on the metrics and data to track their performance and progress. I think what we're saying is bad data, bad decisions, or lack of data, people just wonder. Let me continue. The survey results suggest that data is the most important factor when discussing the X and O's of work. According to Slingshot, over half, 56% of surveyed employees said they gather and use data to make decisions. Whether it's a communication issue, an issue of company silos, or a fear of manager's response, employees seldom ask managers or bosses for help in the decision-making process. Data shows that only 12% of employees say they would ask the most senior person in the business for decision-making guidance. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to bring up a little chart here. So employees' approach to decision-making. Let's kind of break this down. And so employees are using data more than any other tool in their decision-making process. The highest percent, 56%, is gathering and using data in terms of approaching. The next closest is brainstorming with colleagues, which again creates a need. And the article says that even with brainstorming with colleagues, data is helpful. But it's super interesting to me to really see the impact of data on decision-making. So let me keep going here. Consequences of poor data. Regardless of the desire or direction to use data in the decision-making process, the decision might yield the same result if the data is no good. According to the surveyors, the consequences of poor data are extensive, and many employees are blaming it for their shortfalls or pain points at work. Nearly 1/3 of employees say they lack the information needed to do their job when they don't have enough data. That not only inhibits productivity, but also creates stress as tasks pile up. So, number one, in terms of feeling most productive, when I have all the data and information I need, at 72%, there's a big jump down. They say when I have no interruptions, it goes to 45%. So a few other things here. More than 6 in 10 Gen Z employees, which are born between 97 and 2012, use data daily in their decision-making process. More than half of baby boomers use data daily too. So, and Gen Zs, here's the thing, this is very on trend. Gen Z has the greatest percentage of interest in using data for decision-making. I'm super interested in any comments on this, and put them in the screen here. And I'm going to unpack that article just a little bit more as we go. But Sonia, why don't you join me on the screen here?
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you again? We've
Great,
chatted
how are
earlier
you?
today. Good. What's your reaction to that article?
It's fascinating. I'm not sure I would have expected that Gen Z had that much of an interest in data, but it's really kind of nice to know.
You know, speaking of Gen Z, there is we live in a part of the country. It's near Minnetonka, Minnesota. All right.
Mhm.
And that's west of Minneapolis. And that's sort of, we live in the Chanhassen, Excelsior area. But anyway, on point with Gen Z, I was invited to be speaking at an engagement, and there's going to be another speaker there. And I heard about who the speaker is and said, this is a person that talks about Gen Z. Well, I'll be darned if it isn't a Minnetonka High School graduate. And he, at the age of 18, he started consulting with companies like LinkedIn and other. So he's becoming the voice of Gen Z. Maybe we'll have to get this guy. I'm going to call him a kid, excuse me. And he and his dad work together. So I'm super interested to hear what he has to say. But I didn't want to segue into Gen Z. It just seems like, to your comment, that I think that the rising workforce wants more data.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's give this group a little more data, okay?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody. So this is a segue over to the early findings, and I want to set the stage for this so everybody kind of hears me loud and clear. So this is the study that we just completed, and we did a lot of outreach. Anybody on here probably heard outreach from us at least 10 times, because we want to be at the point where we're saying, okay, thanks for all your participation. Thank you for submitting your data. Now we get to report the power of having good data. And so anyway, we closed submissions. What was it, about a few weeks ago, Sonia?
Mid-July. Mm-hmm.
Mid-July, okay. And now we're going through the process of unpacking the findings, and more will come. But we're going to give you some of the key insights out of this. Disclaimer, first of all, these are preliminary numbers and they could be subject to change. I'm going to be making some comparisons between last year's data, which were 2021 data and other earnings related stuff, and 2022. There is a slight apples to oranges from a comparison standpoint, but I don't believe it's significant. But we are leaving the door open for whatever we say today could be superseded and changed as we go deeper in. But we're not going to share this if we don't believe that this is correct. Okay, those are the ground rules. So Sonia, there's some insights that just totally jumped out. As far as just from a general standpoint, the sample size of this group was larger than last year. We had more W-2s, we had more locations, which is great. Here's where I want to go first. Why people are leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And all right. So, all right, why people leave. So when they leave, why? All right. Number one, at 49%, staying home with family. Next one, pretty close at 44%, is career possibilities and growth opportunities. So the two dominant insights, at least based upon those that were in the study, is that staying home with family was 49% and 44% career possibilities. Interestingly enough, you've got to break that in half and go all the way down to 22%. There's a big gap between scheduling possibilities and the next on the list. Next on the list is scheduling flexibility, and that was only 22%. I suspect, Sonia, because a lot of salons have really woken up and really made a lot of adaptations for scheduling flexibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's not a primary reason why people are leaving the industry, which is really cool to see. And along with that, we also found the insight that pay is not a reason why people are leaving the industry. That came in at 18%, which is so much lower than 49%, which is the primary reason why people are leaving, is to stay home with family.
Really interesting.
Mhm.
We have another study that we conducted, we'll save for another week. We're doing a lot of studies. We're doing a lot of data work these days. We did one for instructors in schools, and a lot of instructors are leaving too, and they have similar responses. We'll save that to another session. All right, where do they go? This one has a staggering finding.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a big surprise that suite rental was number one at 57%. But here's the surprise. Well, maybe not a surprise, but there's a lot of chatter about stuff, but I tend to listen to the chatter a little bit more if I've got a data point. I think we know a lot of people are leaving the industry. This report showed that 53% are leaving the industry. So in other words, let's make sure. Where do people go when they leave? 57% suite rental, 53% is they're leaving the industry. Sometimes I wonder if they're leaving the industry because they have poor data. Because we know that most professionals on the front line grossly underestimate their earnings. Just a hypothesis. I think it could be one reason. All right. Discounts and products and services. In last year's study, we didn't ask that question. And I was like, doggone it, we should ask that question. All right. 99.5%. So all but one company offered discounts on products and services. This is a huge benefit. Huge. We take it for granted. In fact, we so took it for granted, we didn't even listen on the benefits list last year when we listed what are potential benefits. And then family and friends, 89%. God, that's got to be just a big motivator in terms of a reason to stay engaged with the businesses because of that. All right. So when you go to the one about owners behind the chair.
Yeah, 54% of the businesses who participated in this study still have an owner in the business who works behind the chair. We thought that was really cool because the owner has a really big sense of empathy for what the service providers are going through, of course.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to this one. A lot of owners really are looking for a way to free themselves up from getting out from behind the chair. And we also know from if a business eventually is going to be in transition, then the owner, making sure the business can stand on its own without owner's production, I think is important. It always comes up. All right. Biggest threats. This is some narrative. Let's come back to this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to the earnings. And this area still needs to be unpacked a little bit more. However, I will give you some data points, is that in the last study last year, average earnings was $38.37 per hour. This year, it's gone up to almost $40 an hour, 39.83. Hours worked went down, which I think is one of the, and so the W-2 average W-2 is 54,691, which doesn't show much higher than last year. But I think but the hourly rate went up. So it says the trend continues for less hours and hourly rate going up from an earnings standpoint.
Yeah, so we went from 27.8 hours per week as the average number of hours someone worked each week in last year's study to 26 hours per week in this year's study.
Yep. Yeah, it's super interesting in terms of those two levers, pay and hours, so same W-2 and less hours. So, all right. What else do we have before we go to some of those narrative responses? We got to discounts on products and services, owner behind the chair. We got to
the average number of hours worked per week was kind of interesting. We see that 90% of service providers are working between 25 and 39 hours per week. Only 3% of people are working more than 40 hours. Very rare that someone's working more than 40 hours.
Very rare. Yeah. Yep. All right, let's go through some of the narrative that came from participants. Anything, our biggest threat. I'm going to take the first one. You can take. I'll take the first one. Salon owners grossly uninformed about labor and tax law. Big threat. Super interesting. Next one. There's a culture of, I shouldn't laugh. There's a culture of tax fraud that inhibits our industry's ability to garner federal support and subsidies for those looking to get in the industry. Many rental salons enjoy the benefits of an employer without paying the proper employee cost that legitimizes our business. By not reporting sales and FICA income, the actual employers in the industry subsidize those who commit tax fraud. I have a couple comments. First of all, I think tax fraud is a big issue. And there's tax evasion and tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal, tax evasion is illegal. And I want to suggest my position on the independent model, someone being a solopreneur, renter, suite renter, whatever. They are not to be demonized. It is a legitimate form of doing business. Granted, it's not for everybody. And granted, there's a lot of myths and poor truths about it. The thing that really resonates to me is whether their business is legitimate, and the business becomes legitimate if they report their earnings. And there's too many easy ways not to do it in the independent model, unfortunately. Why don't you go to the next one about team player?
Yeah, so there were a handful of comments that said things like, no one wants to be a team player. And again, these are things that people identified as the biggest threat to the industry. So these comments were things like, no one wants to be a team player. There's a lack of workers with passion. Somebody said, these kids have no passion, no fire in their belly to want to succeed. Someone said, etiquette and conversational speaking is lacking, as well as eye contact. And YouTube was also listed as a threat.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's some strong words in there. These kids have no passion, no fire in their belly to succeed. Yeah.
Yeah, this insight really brought me back to the conversation with Candace a couple of weeks ago, where she talked about that vulnerable conversation that just made a huge culture shift on her team, and how I wonder what would happen if these people who wrote these comments had a vulnerable conversation like that and sought to seek to understand instead of kind of jumping to conclusions.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point. It is a good segue into a great episode on that. How her culture shifted the most in her entire era of salon ownership in one meeting. Yeah, worth a listen to that episode.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, when I look at, no one wants to be a team player, lack of workers with passion, these kids have no passion. By using the word kids, what we invite is generational type conversation. We talked a little bit about Gen Z earlier, and I by no means have anything short of just an awareness of Gen Z. But there is a finding that was from last year's compensation study that I hadn't realized until we're spending time getting ready for these transition related workshops. This is an aging population of owners. And when I say that, it shows up in the data, because when we looked at the age or how long the company's been in business and current owner, it is very, very skewed towards very, very long history of businesses. So I think that's another reason why it's important to be looking proactively at your business right now, because we have an aging population of owners. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, but it's not just salon owners, it's across the board. There's a question, one thing you wish the world knew. And I think we'll end on this one. The amount of money actually made underreporting income has caused a loss of respect and led to the threat of deregulation. Wow. All right. I'm super interested in any comments on this and any insights, but there you have it. There is a snapshot. There's a lot more that will come out of this study, and we should have it ready in September, I think, right, Sonia? Okay, but there's a sneak peek. Let's see if anybody has anything else to say. Is there anything else related to the study we just went through, Sonia, that you think needs to be called out?
We got the question in the Q&A, but if anybody else has any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or in that Q&A section.
Okay.
I'm just really excited to unpack this, put it into a report and put it out there. I think we've got some really compelling findings, and it's fascinating to see the differences from last year to this year.
Well, and this article from CFO Magazine is really telling too, with 72% of employees saying that their productivity and their performance depend on good data versus bad data. So that's why when we do a data project, we'll do sort of a sneak peek like this, but we take our time, we do it right, because we want good data. We want to unpack the data, we want to make sure it's accurate. We have checks and balances, but I think that's really a bit of a wake-up call for me too, in terms of employees really needing data to do their job. All right. Okay, Sonia, I will. I'm going to transition on to a couple of things. Thanks for joining me in the conversation today and the great work you're doing to help us bring this data to reality. When will the government go after the non-taxpayers that are hurting the reputation of our industry? I don't know, Jill. What I can say is that I believe there's 87,000 new IRS agents, is my understanding. So they have put more funding into the IRS, and certainly the part of the problem, Jill, to be honest with you, is bang for the buck. If you have an IRS agent and he or she have this long list of potential companies to challenge or whatever, why go solo? Why go after the solos, which is one person, where you can go into an employee-based salon and cover 10 people, 20, 100, 200, you know? Michael Batchelor's from Mitchell Salon in Ohio, great guy. And I caught him over the phone one day, and he was super frustrated because the IRS literally told him that. The agent literally told him, why should we go after solos when we can go after you? The IRS agent literally told him that. So anyway, Jill, I wish I had the answer to that question, but I am optimistic that tax compliance will improve. And I'll tell you why. Is I think education matters. And we have an entire module in our Money EDU and our Money Pro program on taxation. And it's very, very clear about why to report income, the threat, et cetera. Kevin Lightheart, the CPA, good morning, Kevin. The new IRS agents are going to be trained to look at small businesses and Schedule C solopreneurs. Kevin, I didn't know there was any Schedule C solopreneurs. So anyway, so we might get another comment back from Kevin. But all right, let's do this. Let's stay disciplined. Sonia, I'm gonna let you go. I've just got a couple other light bulb moments I want to share. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to come back to some visuals here. All right. We're going to wrap this up pretty quick, but all right. So there's some other light bulb moments that I want to share. And let me set the stage for this conversation. In May, at the Phil, we had an evening of light bulb moments. It was a celebration of light bulb moments. And many of you know this, many of you don't, but world-renowned portrait photographer David Rakulia generously donated his time and shot, I think it was about 30 portraits for those that made a donation to Beauty Changes Lives. And all of these portraits really belong together as a series and a set. They're super cool. It's an amazing photography. And over the upcoming sessions, I want to unpack some of these light bulb moments. And literally a portrait, taking a portrait is a light bulb moment. I mean, because any decent portrait is going to be very dependent on the lighting. And it literally is a light bulb moment, a photograph. And so just for fun, in some of these weeks, I want to profile some of these people that sat for light bulb moment portraits. Started with Phil Horvath. So Phil Horvath was one of two. And in fact, that's what I want to start with today. I want to start with our golden light bulb winners. There's 4 of them, and then add one more. So I'm going to go quick on this. So Phil Horvath is now at Chatters in Canada, but he's been in the beauty industry for his entire life. I believe he's 3rd generation. Family came over from Austria, and he's had multiple different ways of expressing himself in his career in beauty. He's been CEO, COO. He's been part of a family business, and he's been a guest on Light Bulb Moments a couple different times. Really, I think that this picture captures him so well. His light bulb moment, and one of the reasons why he received a golden light bulb last year, is that he really felt the industry needed to be reunited, and went, and I give him a lot of credit for helping to create something called Unite as One, where all of the associations are getting together and starting to speak in one voice. And so that light bulb moment from him, we're all the beneficiaries of. The other light bulb moment that we awarded at the Phil this year was to Tracy Herring, who unfortunately couldn't make it due to a situation. And we had Melody and other members of the Devante team that sat for the photo. We will get a picture of Tracy. Tracy's light bulb moment for me came during Aaron's Money O2 podcast when we interviewed Tracy. Just listen to it. I think that in particular, any woman in business should listen to this YouTube. Anybody should listen to it, but she really speaks at it, and Aaron did a great job interviewing her. So big shout out to Tracy Herring and the Devante team for their light bulb moments. Megan Jasper, I'm not sure if Megan's joining us today. I haven't checked the list here, but Megan Jasper from Gadabout received the golden light bulb last year. Her light bulb moment was really, in a great degree, sparked the compensation study. They were the early adopters. They were part of the beta group, and were very involved in sort of the whole methodology to create the compensation studies. And Megan contributes so many other ways. She's always been a great guest for us, and she's an amazing woman. Sam Mercado also got a golden light bulb, and that was last year. My light bulb moment with Sam recently is, man, this guy is a lifelong learner. I had him on as a guest very recently, and he's always into learning something new. He was into, I think it was like organic chemistry for a while, and just like within the last year. And then now he's digging into AI. And this guy's curiosity is hugely inspiring. And I'm going to go see Sam in New York next week. And I'm going to have some more light bulb moments with him, because I always get just a ton of light bulb moments from Sam. Great photographs of both of them. And then finally, Luisa Garcia. I wanted to highlight Luisa because Luisa is an amazing woman from Puerto Rico. Really had great mentoring by her father, and really was strong in some of the non-traditional areas that relate with math and, STEM basically. So she is really someone that is very inspiring, and I'll tell you why. She's a salon in a salon in New Hampshire, but she spends about half of her year out in Italy. Not half a year, a few months. She did more recruiting from Italy than most of the people on these Light Bulb Moments broadcasts. So she is definitely a bit of a force, and great photograph like the rest of them. So anyway, just for fun, want to share some of these light bulb moments from some of these beautiful portraits. And as far as a $1 million light bulb today, we'll save that for a future week. Reminder, we've got Execution SBO coming up very soon here in Minneapolis, a 2-day workshop for owners, managers, especially managers. And then we also have Money SBO that's happening at the same time. That's profitability made simple and visual. And then finally, we do have our exit planning workshop on October 22nd in Atlanta, Georgia. And I want to thank our sponsors, Lightheart Sanders, LI Health, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do have some changes coming up to Lightbulb Moments, which we will get into in September. I am going to be taking a little bit of time off, so I will miss you over the next couple of weeks, taking a bit of a road trip. Aaron is going to do a Lightbulb Moments takeover in some upcoming weeks, but I won't see you for a good 3 weeks. I wish all of you the best. I'll take a moment to read the comments, and thanks again for joining us today. And for those of you that have been in the compensation study and helped with the data, thank you, because data matters. All right, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for Sonia for assisting in the conversation today and for her insights. And for all of you, I wish you a great next few weeks. Bye now.